All right, well, it's 5:30, so let's start the meeting for the video people. And it's a meeting of the Board of Public Works of May 24th, 2021. As chair of the Board of Public Works, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which has been authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom through the city's IT department for this electronic meeting. To access Zoom, please refer to the agenda or to the city's website for the meeting link. To join by phone, dial 1-929-436-2866. The meeting ID is 970-6882-6149. And the password is 870727. We are also providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting through public postings. Instructions have also been provided on the City of Nashua's website at www.nashuanh.gov and publicly noticed at City Hall and at the Department of Public Works Administration Building at 9 Riverside Drive. We are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem accessing the meeting via phone, please call 603-821-2049 and they will help you connect. And we would adjourn the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting via the phone number mentioned above, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during the meeting shall be done by roll call. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states his or her presence, please state why you are not physically present for the meeting, and also please state whether there is anyone in the room with you during the meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Diane, are you on the call? And if so, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tease.
Yes, good evening. I'm attending remotely due to the governor's order. I'm at my home, and from time to time, there are other people here, i.e. my family, but no one's present at this very moment. Thank you.
Commissioner Pappas.
I'm here. I'm currently in a room by myself, and I'm here due to the pandemic.
Commissioner Moriarty.
Yes, I am present, attending remotely due to the coronavirus pandemic, and I am in my private office by myself.
Commissioner Shoneman.
I'm here. I'm attending remotely because of the governor's order, and I'm alone in this room in my house.
Mayor Donches.
I am attending remotely because of the pandemic, and I'm alone in the room with my computer. All right, so the first item is a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Commissioner Moriarty.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Discussion? Excuse me, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tease.
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas.
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty.
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Yes.
Mayor Donches.
Yes, the motion passes. Our next item is a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of April 29th. Commissioner Pappas.
I'll move to approve the minutes of the Board of Public Works meeting of April 29th, 2021.
Any discussion or corrections? Could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tease.
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Mayor Donches.
Motion, yeah, I vote yes, and the motion passes. Now, before we go on to the business of the meeting, I would like to make sure we identify Alderman Mike O'Brien, who's the liaison from the Board of Aldermen, who's also attending with us. Next issue is public comment. Any member of the public who wishes to address the board regarding any issue, especially on tonight's agenda, now is the time. I see Ms. Helen Honoro.
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Mayor Donches. My name is Helen Honoro. I live at 46 Raymond Street here in Nashua. I am a property owner and a business owner. I'm here today to speak about the request for waiver of fees for the Bronstein redevelopment project. What I think is so critically important about this project and all endeavors to increase affordable housing in Nashua is that we really are at a crisis with affordable housing and its lack of availability in our city. Right now, the waiting lists for public housing, the current public housing waiting list is at 2,882 people. That's at the end of April's report. The Section 8 waiting list is 3,927. There are people on the waiting list at Cotton Mill for a voucher, a Section 8 voucher of 470 people and 275 people at Salmon Brook. Those include numbers for elderly, disabled, and families who are looking for public housing and affordable housing for their family. I think the additional 240 units that the Bronstein redevelopment project would provide are critical for our city. It's a plan that will enhance both that area of the city and the life for all the families that may be able to live there. Our New Hampshire statute provides the ability for this sort of waiver, and I hope that you will strongly consider it. I don't want this project put at risk for any reason, and certainly the ability to waive fees for this type of project is in your hands, and I hope you will all vote for it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Is there any other member of the public who would like to? I see maybe Andrew Perlman.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you very much. Andy Perlman, attorney with Purdy and Perlman in Nashua. Mr. Mayor, I'm here tonight to speak on the next agenda item having to do with the maintenance agreement for Sanders Street. And so I defer to your guidance. I could speak now or I could speak when that comes up.
Well, all we'll have is a motion, and so why don't you speak now since you're—
Sure. Okay. So very briefly, in 2016, this board approved the very similar maintenance agreement for phase 1 of the Renaissance Bridge Street project having to do with Bancroft Street. And that was approved in October of 2016. And what you have before you tonight is the very same maintenance agreement, but this time it's for phase 2 of the project, where the apartments to be built will be on either side of Sanders Street. So the way this works is the developer of the project is going to rebuild Sanders Street from the sewer upward. They're going to build out their project. They're going to maintain Sanders Street going forward. And in exchange for that work, we get to use the Sanders Street parking spaces in Sanders Street according to the plans that the National Planning Board has approved. So we have the very same agreement that this board approved in 2016 and for phase 2 of the project today. And I thank you.
All right, and Mr. Pullman, could you stay on in the event there are any questions about the agreement?
Of course.
So now, anyone else from the public wish to address the board?
Laura Cahoon.
Ms. Colhoun, could you go ahead, please?
My name is Laura Cahoon, and I'm at 30 Greenwood Drive. I'm here to ask the board to stop the Brunstein redevelopment plan. The Nashua taxpayers will be losing an average of 50% of the property taxes over the period of 15 years, with a concession of about $3.7 million. This deal is unfair to the Nashua taxpayers. When are city officials going to start looking at ways to help the Nashua taxpayer? The city of Nashua just keeps putting more and more burdens on the taxpayers, and at this point, the taxpayers have had it. Nashua has enough low-income projects that our mayor has started, so Nashua does not need any more. It appears both the mayor and other city officials are trying to put too much of a tax burden on the residential properties, and this is not fair. The mayor is asking taxpayers not to get taxes for 2024 and then pay $225,000 for an increase of 3% per year. Well, the Nashua taxpayers just got an increase of more than 3% property taxes. So now the mayor will be asking the residential property taxes owners to be making up the difference. Then, with all the other expenses, the mayor is asking the residential taxpayers to eat. At this point, the Nashua taxpayers have eaten enough. This board is looking at least 5 properties tonight for hardship. Start thinking about the Nashua residential taxpayer as asking for a hardship tonight. Please do not allow this Bronstein redevelopment plan to go forward. Thank you.
Any other members of the public who want to speak to the board? If not, we'll go on to item 5, which is the Sanders agreement. Commissioner Schoeneman.
I move to approve the Sanders Street Maintenance Agreement between the City of Nashua and the SMC residents at Riverfront Landing Phase 2 Limited Partnership.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Perlman has provided an explanation. Does Ms. Photo or anyone else have anything to add to what's already been said?
I think Director Cummings is here to speak to it, Mayor. He may have something to add.
Director Cummings.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Tim Cummings, Director of Economic Development. I'll keep my comments brief only because Attorney Perlman did an excellent job outlining the subject matter at hand. I just would ask the board to favorably approve this agreement. This is the last step in the Renaissance project. This has been a long legacy project for the city of Nashua. Once we conclude phase 2, we will have pretty much brought the project to fruition. And I think we're all very excited by that. So thank you for your time, and please, when you get a chance, vote favorably for this.
All right. Any comments or questions from members of the board?
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Pappas.
So I'm glad this project is over. And I will say I've been following this project since the beginning. I've been on the board. And I do feel like the city was promised the moon, and that didn't happen. For example, they were supposed to pay to move the skateboard park, among a number of other things. And to me, it's just been disappointing that this developer didn't live up to what they were supposed to do. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Any other member of the commission? Any other commissioner comments? Well, if not, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
No.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Schoeneman,
No.
Mayor Donches.
Yes. And the motion passes.
Thank you very much.
We're now on to the Board of Aldermen referrals, R21-136. Commissioner Tease.
Sure. I move for referral to the Board of Aldermen, Resolution R21-136, authorizing developer agreement with payment in lieu of taxes, also known as pilot, for the Bronstein redevelopment.
Thank you. And I think Mr. Cummings is here to explain the proposed agreement.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. If I may, again, Tim Cummings, Director of Economic Development. I'm here to ask for your favorable recommendation to the Board of Aldermen relative to R21-136. The legislation is an omnibus piece of legislation that has many different parts to it, but the parts that pertain to the Board of Public Works that I'm going to call your attention to is essentially in paragraph 7. It is relative to the waiver of the wastewater fees, and this is for just the hookup at an approximate value of about $60,000. And then in addition, the Myrtle Street improvements, that's paragraph 8, for repaving and restriping, a value of approximately $55,000. And with that being said, that Myrtle Street repaving and restriping is not an additional cost, but just a rejiggering of the plan where we're going to make sure that we pave the roadway sooner rather than later to make sure we're complementing the project at hand, but wouldn't be any new cost. So at the end of the day, we're really just talking about approximately $60,000 that we're asking for some forgiveness on. And why are we doing that? It's because the Bronstein project, which is a housing project that has been eyed for redevelopment for quite a long time now, is a relatively tired site. And we have the potential of redeveloping that site into 216 units. Of those 216 units, 206 will be set aside as affordable. Currently, right now on that site is only 44 housing units that are affordable. So that's a net new increase into the marketplace of 162 units. We need this additional supply of affordable housing for all the reasons that were mentioned earlier this evening. I'll close my comments by saying that it is never easy to ask for any type of tax forgiveness or any type of waivering of fees. This was something that was very much deliberated on. But for this type of forgiveness, the project would not be able to move forward. We had extensive conversations with the Nashua Housing Authority, their private sector partner, Boston Capital, who will be developing the project in conjunction with them. They need to put together a very complicated financing plan, and they were able to successfully do it, but they needed some help up front to mitigate some of the costs. They've asked for this, and we feel it's a good thing to do because in return, we're going to be getting that 162 new units of affordable housing. With that being said, it goes without saying that the improvements in and along that corridor, the Pine Street extension and Central Street, we've spent a lot of money and time, as you all know, with the redevelopment of the Broad Street Parkway. Getting the private investment that we're talking about, something like approximately $50 million, is going to just help be a catalyst for the redevelopment of that area overall. So with that being said, I ask for your favorable recommendation. Thank you.
And I would like to add that the city is in critical need of housing. Our vacancy rate is less than 1%. We have all of the waiting lists that Ms. Honoro already spoke about. People are desperate for housing. And I think there's a misunderstanding regarding the tax picture here. I mean, right now, Bronstein is paying zero. I mean, so we're getting no tax revenue at all. Now, if this project proceeds ahead, which I believe it will, the agreement is that we will get $225,000 a year, or a total of $3.7 million, which we would not otherwise get over 15 years. Now, it's typical for this. This is under a so-called pilot or payment in lieu of taxes agreement. This is typical for housing authorities to enter these agreements with municipalities because typically they don't pay full taxes. But certainly 3.7 million that will be derived from this project, in addition, of course, to the housing units, which are definitely needed, but the $3.7 million that will come in from this project over 15 years is a lot better than the 0% we would get with the current development over that same period of time. $0 that we would get from this project over that same period of time. I don't know if anyone has an estimate of the sewer charges that will be generated by this project on an annual basis, but if you do, it'd be interesting to know that. But now on to other commissioners. I see that Commissioner Teves has his hand up, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I appreciate your kind of answering one of my two questions in advance, and that was, what would the net positive impact, if we're giving up fees, we're going to now all of a sudden realize 225,000 annually. That's helpful, very helpful, and is eye-opening to me in terms of supporting the project. However, I did have another question, and we may not have the answer, but certainly homelessness and access to affordable living is a problem not only here, but throughout all of New Hampshire, all of New England for that matter. And I was wondering if there's any way that we can somehow identify what the opportunity cost of not doing this project. So if we didn't create 160 more units to make them available to lower income folks, how that would negatively impact resources and capital in our community and further negatively impact our operating budget and taxpayers here in the city.
Mr. Cummings, can you quantify that?
I was just trying to in my head. I wouldn't be able to do it right now. It is a really good question, actually, because without doing the analysis, I'm going to just say you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars of social services that we would have to put out, namely hotel rooms that you'd have to pay for every night. And then if you have children, the social services to go with that. So I would have to take a step back and really analyze it to quantify it for you. But you're easily in excess of at 160 families approximately. I mean, it's hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Thank you. No further questions for me.
Anybody else have questions or comments? Any other commissioners?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Commissioner Pappas.
So 160 units, how many are there now?
It's 160 additional units. So now, according to the testimony, there are 44 units, and it will be redeveloped to be 216. So an additional 162, I think, is the math.
Okay, so there is no tax revenue there now, is that correct?
Correct.
So there's no tax bill to anyone there right now?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So, all right. That actually. The one question I have just about those programs in general. I mean, does that mean that those taxes can only be spent in a certain area?
No, the tax revenue would come in and, like other taxes, would go to the general fund and would support city services.
But right now we don't get a penny in taxes on Bronstein.
Bronstein does not pay taxes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other, Commissioner Moriarty?
Mayor, I would just say I think it's a good deal, very good. I appreciate everybody who's worked so hard on this. I mean, from our standpoint on Public Works, we're talking about waiving wastewater for 216 apartments. It's just, how can you say no to it, really? But I'm totally in favor of it. Thank you.
Now, there will be wastewater fees collected going forward. It's just the connection charges is
Yep.
that would be waived. So for the use of the sewer system, we would be fully reimbursed. Any other commissioners who wish to ask questions or make comments?
Yes, please. Can you hear me now?
Commissioner Schoeneman.
Can you explain why Brownstein doesn't currently pay taxes?
Well, there is, it is a it's owned by the Housing Authority, which is a non-profit, in essence, a nonprofit. And maybe can Mr. Cummings elaborate on that?
Yes, happy to. So as you were saying, Mayor, the current site is owned by a government entity with certain powers and privileges afforded to it, which is the Nashua Housing and Redevelopment Authority. This particular circumstance, it's a public-private partnership where the Nashua Housing Authority is going to be leasing their land to a private sector owner, a special purpose legal entity that will be holding the asset and making said improvements on the land. We have the ability to waive or reduce or the taxes on those improvements. And so we were able to negotiate an agreed upon sum of money for this project.
I think another aspect of the project that is certainly less tangible is that the appearance of the site will be improved, and we see the School Street housing going is projected to go up nearby, generating about 400,000 in taxes. This is a couple of blocks away. I mean, as this neighborhood begins to evolve, one successful project after another, I think that it will stimulate more private investment. And so there could be non-housing authority projects that would be encouraged at least by this and the other things that are going on nearby when these projects become successful. Anybody else?
I would like to make another comment, please, if I may.
Sure, go ahead, please.
It's very surprising to hear this proposal. Every proposal that comes up, whether it's a hardship request or purchase of land, there's always someone chiming in saying, well, think of the tax revenue we're going to get. And here we are forsaking, almost $4 million in tax revenue. It's quite surprising to hear that at this point. And my other thought, which is, I know, unpopular, but is nonetheless kind of unavoidable, is that truly when you increase low-income housing, generally you do not see a positive evolution of the neighborhood. And I predict, I hope it's not true, but I predict that we are not going to see a big revitalization of this neighborhood by adding this many units of, how do you call it, affordable housing. That's my thought. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to just answer the first part of that, which is that we're foregoing taxes. And because these units will be rented at far less than market, if we charge full taxes, the project will not go ahead because, there won't be enough money coming in to support. I mean, that's the whole basis for it, that you won't see the project. So it won't happen unless, there's certain accommodations made. For example, in addition to the tax issue, you might have seen that there are in the agreement $700,000 of home funds going into this. Home funds are federal funds that are allocated to the city to in turn be allocated into affordable housing to stimulate the development of affordable housing. And the point of these various parts of the agreement are that without these things, there won't be any project. You'll just see Bronstein. And so the judgment, I think, that the commission asked and the Board of Aldermen ultimately, which I think this is already, the Board of Aldermen is going to make is that is it better as a half a glass or and plus 160 units of housing, which is desperately needed, better than just getting nothing and just leaving things the way they are. So it's not like if this agreement were killed, we would suddenly get double 3.7 million. We'd get zero, not 7.4. I think you understand the point. I've hoped that I've made it, stated it clearly enough, but. Anyone else wish to address this issue or ask questions or anything?
Mayor,
Commissioner Moriarty.
just a point of clarification. You keep saying 116, but the document says 216. What is the actual number of apartments?
If I said 216,
No, you said 116.
If I said 116, it's 216.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right. Well,
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Commissioner Pappas.
So I do think, I'll be honest, a lot of, I know a lot of people's objection sometimes is that when we have a public project like this and developers make a lot of money off of things, and I think we've been doing a lot of development downtown that has taken an awful lot of city tax dollars. And I had actually, I came into this thinking I'm going to vote against it because I really think that having people make money off of, off of public tax dollars, I disagree with that. But that said, if right now, what changed my mind, if indeed it's true that right now we receive no tax dollars for the 160 units. So it's 160 units now and we're going to 216. Is that correct?
No, it's 44 units now, 44 units going to 216.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Tees.
because we've had so many numbers bantered about, could you or maybe Director Cummings just go over one more time, total number of units now, total number of affordable housing now, and what the project looks like after the fact, just so we're on the same page.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes, happy to. So you have currently on site 44 units. All those units are affordable units. When all said and done on the site after the project is done, there will be 216 units. Of that 216 units, 206 of them will be affordable. 10 will be at quote unquote market rate.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else?
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you.
Could you please, if anyone has anything, please speak up. If not, we'll call the roll.
Commissioner Tees,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
No.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
No.
Mayor Donches,
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you. Next we're on to engineering. There's a motion, item A, Commissioner Moriarty.
Yes, thank you. I move to approve the residential and commercial wastewater service permits and fees as submitted.
Any
You have to
discussion?
speak to this, Mr. Mayor? Okay. Thank you, Dan Hudson, City Engineer. Yeah, I guess this is one that we don't usually speak to. There's just a summary there, so I apologize for jumping in.
All right. All right, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Mayor Donches,
Yes. The motion passes. Next is item
Miss-
B.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Tim Cummings here. I apologize for interrupting. I just wanted to quickly correct the record. I looked at my notes quickly. I misspoke. When I said there was 44 units on site, I meant to say 48 units. I was just off by 4 and just wanted to correct the record. I apologize.
All right, so we're going from 48 to 216, correct?
Correct. Thank you.
Does anyone wish to change their vote based on that? I don't see anyone. All right, we're on item B, Commissioner Pappas.
I'll move to approve poll license petitions for PSNH and Consolidation Communications number 21-1569 and PSNH number 21-1571.
Discussion? All those in favor, excuse me, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Mayor Donches.
Yes. Motion passes. Item C, Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve the purchase of rectangular rapid flashing beacon, RRFB crosswalk signal systems from the Ocean State Signal Company of Smithfield, Rhode Island, in the amount not to exceed $65,000. Funding will be through Department 161 Streets, Fund Prior Year Escrow, Account Category 81, Capital Outlay Improvements.
Thank you. Mr. Hudson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dan Hudson, City Engineer. So this is to, as noted, install some enhancements to pedestrian crossings on Main Street. These are at the places, the crossings that are not currently at a signal. Anyone familiar with the Main Street Bridge will recognize what this is. If you want to cross, you push the button and it provides the blinking yellow lights, which attracts driver attention and makes for a safer crossing. You tend to have much better drivers yielding to pedestrian rates when you have this type of treatment. So this is proposed at the 3 locations on Main Street that are unsignalized currently. We propose to make this purchase from Ocean State Signal. They're the ones that provided the equipment on the Main Street Bridge and have done other work for us, and we've had good luck with it so far. And for future maintenance reasons, it's much easier for us to have the same equipment in an area. So that's why we're proposing to the same equipment here as on the bridge.
Questions or comments from the commissioners? Could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Mayor Donches.
Yes. Motion passes. The next is item D. Oh, excuse me. I was just waiting for someone to make a motion. I didn't call on anyone. Commissioner Tease, sorry.
Yes, I move to consider the hardship request from Liberty Utilities to excavate in Burke Street to install gas mains.
Mr. Hudson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will introduce this item, and then I believe we have Representative Liberty if there's any additional questions. But this is the first of a number of hardship items we're bringing tonight, and you know, we don't like to do that, but it's necessary at times. We have paved about 100 miles of the city's 300-mile network over the last 5 years. So by the nature of the work we're doing, we're gonna have these and continue to have these. So this first one is for work, as noted, at intersections along Burke Street. Burke Street was paved in November of 16, so there's about 6 months left on the moratorium. Liberty is requesting to do this work to accommodate planned paving work on Underhill Street and Benson Avenue. So that's the reason for the need for the work. So with that, there was letters and graphics from them attached to the application, but either I or Liberty will be happy to entertain any questions that we can.
Commissioner Pappas? I think, did you raise your hand? I thought you were about to speak, so I called on you.
No, I wasn't, but I will. I will say that I really do not like to give hardships, and because I think that it's not fair to taxpayers' dollars. But since there's only 6 months left on this issue, I will let it go, since less damage is done at the end of the moratorium period as opposed to the beginning. So 6 months, I'll give this one a pass.
Anyone else wish to comment or ask questions? Could you please call the roll, please?
Commissioner Tease?
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas?
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
Mayor Donches?
Yes. Motion passes. We next have item E, Commissioner Moriarty.
Yes, I move to consider the hardship request from Liberty Utilities to excavate in Lovell Street to install gas mains.
Be happy to speak to this, Mr. Mayor, if you like.
Yes, Mr. Hudson.
Okay, this is very similar to the previous item. Again, it's work that Liberty's doing to accommodate future paving, in this case on Pine Street and Marquis Ave. Again, they need to do this work. It's just some main work and connection work to basically get out of the way of the paving. Unfortunately, Lovell was recently paved. It was just late last year. So we missed an opportunity to, better coordinate this specific item, but they're aware of the restoration requirements, and will do the restoration in accordance with the ordinances.
And what are the streets that we want to pave that this will enable?
It's Pine Street and Marquis Ave.
Okay. Questions, comments from the commissioners?
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Pappas.
So it's towards the beginning of the period in which we pave is when a road is cut into, it does its worst damage. So I will not be supporting this. Thank you.
Anyone else? I don't see anything. Could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tease?
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas?
No.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
No.
Mayor Donches?
Yes. And I will just, motion passes. I'll just add, we really need to pave Pine Street. So, all right, the next item is item F, Commissioner Pappas.
I'll move to consider a hardship request from Sequel Development and Management, Inc. to excavate in Blackstone Drive to install a water line connection.
Mr. Hudson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this was a request from 8 Blackstone. The board may recall, we approved a moratorium waiver request for 4 Blackstone, which is the abutting property. That request was part of the pilot program because they're doing just some curb work along the edges. But as part of that development, there's a future development planned at, well, actually not part of that, but there's a future development planned at 8 Blackstone. They're in the planning processes, but they view this as an opportunity to install the utilities for that project because the 4 Blackstone will be, constructing a driveway and do some edge work, which will be required to be, recut if this installation was held till later. Blackstone was last paid in September of 16, so there's approximately 4 months remaining on the moratorium period. And I believe we do have representatives here to speak to it if there's any questions.
Commissioners?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Pappas.
I just want to qualify, there's only 4 months left on the moratorium. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. I'll give again, since it's so close, and it doesn't do as much damage towards the end of the moratorium, I'll give them a pass. Thank you.
Anyone else have comments, questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Tease.
Yeah, I'm going to support it, given the fact we supported the neighbor and also what Commissioner Pappas said. I think, well, my position on most of these things, but where there is only 4 months left, I think it's fine.
Anyone else? Could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Mayor Donches.
Yes, motion passes. Next item, Commissioner Shoneman. We're on G.
We'll move to consider the hardship request from BJ's Wholesale Club to excavate in Daniel Webster Highway to make driveway and site improvements for development of the property at 210 Daniel Webster Highway.
Mr. Hudson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is for a planned gas station project at the corner of DW Highway and Adventure Way. It's through the BJ's. It's going to be a BJ's gas. They've been through the planning board process, been approved. They've actually started demo on the existing building, but they need to do a little bit of work on Daniel Webster Highway, which is paved in August of 16. So there's 3 months left on that moratorium. They've worked with us, trying to address some of the sidewalk issues out there. So that's also part of the reason that they're doing this work. If approved, we would include this in the pilot program as it's work only along the edges of the road. So we would limit the restoration to the shoulder area.
Commissioners?
I had a general ask or comment,
Yes.
if I may.
Go ahead, Commissioner Tease.
I'm wondering, it might be helpful if on the agenda, within parentheses, perhaps after each of these requests, we were to note how many months are left in the moratorium. Might be helpful just to see it quickly like that. Thank you.
I have a question as well.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Do I understand right that this is just mostly curb and driveway amendment? There's not a lot of excavation going on, not a lot of big excavation like laying pipes and drains and things.
Yes, that is correct. The service work is on Adventure Way, not on DW Highway, which is in moratorium.
Okay.
And I think we'd be happy to include the months remaining on the moratorium for future items for ease of understanding.
And you said there's 3 months on this one.
Correct.
All right, any other questions or comments? Could you please call the roll then, if not?
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Mayor Donches.
Yes, motion passes. We now have item H, Commissioner Tease.
I move to consider a hardship request from John Dupre to excavate in Fairway Street to install a water service connection.
Would you like me to address this, Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Hudson, please.
Thank you. Mr. Dupre is on the phone, I believe here, but he's a resident of 7 Fairway Street. Pennachuck Waterworks is installing a water service, and the location of the water main, as they understood it, was not in the road, but it turns out they need to encroach into the edge of the road because it's not exactly where we thought it was. Their intention was to avoid all impacts to Fairway, but that's not going to be possible. This is halfway through the moratorium. I have 2 years and 5 months noted as being left. The excavation will be along the edge of the road. So again, we're looking to limit the restoration of the shoulder area of the road. I believe the impact area will be fairly small. So with that, I'm happy to answer questions, or Mr.
I think the memo says that the paving was in October 2017. Is that accurate? So that would be more, that's 3.
Yeah, I might have miscalculated. That might be 1 year and 5 months. Is that right?
All right. Other questions, comments? Commissioner Schoen,
I'd like to comment.
go ahead.
It's interesting that this request seems closer to an actual hardship than many that come across the desk. They were told that the main was in one place and it wasn't. So I think that it would be the right thing to do to allow them to make the connection so that they can build their house.
Anybody else? All those in favor, or excuse me, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
No.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Mayor Donches.
Yes, motion passes. We now have item I, Commissioner Moriarty.
Move to approve a drain layers license for Colonial Contracting and Excavating, Inc. of Ashburnham, Mass. in accordance with Nashua City Code 255-19. Issuance of drain layers license, and authorize the Division of Public Works to temporarily suspend the license if work is found to be unsatisfactory during an initial 6-month probationary period.
Any comments or questions from the commissioners? Could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Mayor Donches.
Yes, motion passes. Item J is an informational item. Unless people have questions or comments on that, we'll go on to the administrative department.
Mr. Mayor, can I direct a question to the city engineer?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. So I find it really helpful when we receive the report about what streets are getting paved at certain weeks. And I have a couple of more suggestions. What might be helpful if people call us, or to see what's going on, to see if this would be a huge hassle for that report. So I know some of the streets that we're going to do this year were supposed to be done last year, and it's probably going to happen next year because we all know how difficult it is to coordinate all the different utilities. So if we have a street that's listed to be worked on, can you specify if it was from the previous paving year?
Yes, Commissioner Pappas, I believe we can do that. I don't think we carried any roads over this year. I could be wrong. I know we are completing punch list of final
Okay.
cleanup items, but last year we did a pretty good job of trying to clean
Okay.
up all the previous years and get caught up. So
Okay.
I think we're caught up. But yeah, if we do have any carryovers, we'll note that.
Because I don't know. There are two streets that I thought were supposed to be done last year, but I may not. That may not be accurate. But if we do happen, if you don't mind checking first, that would be helpful. The other two items, if it's possible to put on the weekly report, if we're doing crack sealing, and also maybe what sidewalks we're going to be working on, if that would be possible to do that. If not weekly, monthly. I would find that really helpful.
So we're in the process of contracting for a crack sealing for this year. So that work hasn't started yet, but I think we'll be bringing that contract at the next meeting. So that work will start later, and we can try to find a way to notify people of that. And in terms of sidewalk, a similar thing. We haven't bid out any sidewalk work yet this year. I mean, we are doing a bunch of ADA improvements as part of the paving project this year, which I think people will start to notice and is a positive, beneficial thing for access. And then I don't know, as part of our other work we do in-house, I'm not sure if it would be possible to do that notification. I mean, that's usually more spot repairs and whatnot.
Okay, so how about monthly? How about for our monthly meetings, if we can say, these streets are set for or have been done crack sealing on or have had sidewalk repairs or anticipate. Would that be possible?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, certainly the work that we're coordinating with the contracted work, we certainly can do that reporting that way.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
All right, anyone else before the city engineer, before we go on to administration? If not, we'll go back, we'll go to administration. Item A is a informational item regarding the Bird scooters. I think Ms. Chismus is here on that.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. I am here. Thank you so much for your time this evening. I do have a few slides, if that'd be okay if I share my screen.
Yes, of course.
All right, thank you. So yes, I'm here this evening to discuss the partnership that the city has with Bird Rides. My name is Julie Chismus. I'm the Transportation and Long Range Planner in the Community Development Division. And as I said, the city has partnered with Bird Rides to bring dockless electric scooters to Nashua at no cost to the city. This is very similar to what we had in 2019 with a company called VioRide. They started initially, we had dockless bikes, and then they added scooters to their fleet. And then in 2020, they decided not to relaunch that season, actually about 3 weeks before everything shut down. And they have not offered to come back. So earlier this year, the representative from the company Bird reached out to the city to see if we would be interested in partnering with them, and we are, and we did. So similar, like I said, similar to VioRide, the scooters unlock using an app, and then you pay per ride. It's $1 to start and 39 cents a minute to ride. The service area, which I have up on the screen, is similar to what we used with VioRide, and in fact, they had determined that was the best service area for their scooters based on ride paths, so figured we'd use the same one. This is editable, and we can modify it as needed. When a scooter goes outside of the geofence, what it actually does is, you're riding within the service area, and when you go across the line, which is clear on your app, and also it will sound an alert, the scooter will just slow down and eventually come to a stop. So you can't ride it outside of that service area. And what I've shown on the screen is the geofence, and then on the side of it, the scooters launched on Thursday. And so this is a heat map showing where those rides ended, where people stopped their ride. And as you can see, it does not leave the service area. With Bird, again, they have a 24/7 customer service. A lot of this was in your memo, so I'm not going to try to repeat too much, but I just want to stress that they do have 24/7 customer service, both through the app, via phone, or through an email. And they have a community mode, so if you have the app, you don't have to have a credit card attached to it, but you can just from the app scan a scooter and send a report if there's a problem with it. Bird also offers some great programs for the community, one of which is their access program that provides an option for low-income residents. You do have to apply for it and show that you are eligible. But with that, you get discounted rides. They also offer discounted rides for seniors, veterans, and select community nonprofits. Oh, I go back. One thing I forgot to tout was their free rides for healthcare and medical professionals. This is really, in response to COVID. That program still is in effect. So members of the medical profession can ride for free a couple times a day. One other great thing that Bird offers are free helmets for its riders. So you do need to be a registered user and have used the scooter at least once. And they do require that you pay a shipping fee, but other than that, you can, go to the website. It's also available through the app and request a free helmet. These are some images from this afternoon. We did a little launch event out front of City Hall. Right now, our agreement with Bird says that we'll have 125 scooters to begin with, and that is true, although only about 50 of them are out right now. We're doing kind of what's called a soft launch to allow the fleet managers who are going to operate the system to kind of ramp up production. So we have about 50 out of the 125 scooters out right now. And as of about 5 o'clock this afternoon, since Thursday at about 8 o'clock in the evening to about 5 o'clock this afternoon, there's been 473 rides ridden over about 790 miles. And that's on, like I said, only about 50 scooters that are out. The company strives to have at least 2 rides per scooter per day, and we are achieving that for the most part. The 20th and the 24th, which is a partial day today, and then the first day they launched, weren't hitting those numbers, but they are meeting the performance measures that the company likes to see and that will make their fleet managers profitable. Just for some comparison, I don't know that it's really going to work, but in 24 weeks that we had the VO Ride scooters, they had 95 scooters. For a 24-week period, we saw just under 24,000 rides and about just under 34,000 miles at these scooters, not the bikes, but just the scooters were ridden. And they averaged about 2.1 rides per day. So that's all I really have to share. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so people can see, and I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has about the program.
Any questions?
Great.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We now have item B, which are some more informational items, I believe, from Director Photo.
So just the first, Mayor, is our budget transfers, which I'll be happy to answer any questions on, but.
If I may, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner Pappas.
So I had noticed it's $50,000 going through architectural and engineering services, and it's coming from other contracted services. So I will say I was kind of surprised to see that we didn't get the money that the purchaser of Burke Street. I thought some of that money was going to be used towards the engineering services, architectural and engineering services. So I guess two questions. Number one, what other contracted services are we going to be missing out on? And I guess my second comment would be, if we've got 50 grand to kind of throw around on that, are we over budgeting? So what services are we kind of giving up the 50,000 for?
Well, this first, Commissioner Pappas, this is wastewater. So this isn't the sewer user fund. This isn't in the general fund. But it's actually architect and engineering services that are being transferred into other contracted services. And this is for the design of phase 2 of the pump stations. we needed some additional money. So that's what that's for.
Okay, and that, okay, so that does come from the wastewater, okay.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Correct.
All right. So, for the transfer from machinery and equipment to infrastructure improvements, the $35,000, what in,
So that is also wastewater, and that is for when we were building the Newton pump station, we were trying to take power off a pole that was close by, and we found out that it didn't have phase 3 power. So we had to connect to a different pole. So this is for the conduit and fiber and connecting to the other pole that's a little bit further away for the Newton pump station.
Okay, so once the wastewater fees are raised, do you think that you won't have to do these big transfers?
Oh, I think we'll always have to do transfers. I mean, that's just pretty common when, especially when we get to the end of the year with our budget, to find that, we need a little bit more money in one line and we need a little less money in the other line. It's a very, while $50,000 and $35,000 certainly is a lot of money. It's a small amount of money when you think about the amount of money we spend at the wastewater treatment plant. So it's a huge advantage that we're able to transfer money, so we're able to get some of these things done, and some of these unforeseen things like the power. Issue. Yeah.
Okay. So it won't put the other items short, is what I'm saying.
Correct.
So in other words, the money where you're getting it from, those items won't be underfunded. Is that correct?
That's correct, Commissioner Pappas.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Thanks a million.
You're welcome.
Anything else on the budget transfers? If not, Director, could you go on with the other informational items?
Yes. Diane, could you share my director's report, please? Okay. The first slide is for Public Works Week. We had trucks at Greeley Park, at landfill, and at the street department to collect food for the Nashua Soup Kitchen and Shelter. And this is Northeastern Boulevard paving. This is Sunshine Paving working on May 10th as part of our annual paving program. This is an emergency residential sewer repair that was done by Crisp Contracting at 116 Ald Street on May 10th. We are cleaning and preparing the splash pad at Sandy Pond for the upcoming season. That'll be opening soon. That's wastewater helping us. We have put the shade sails back up at Roby Park, which have been enormously popular, and they'll stay up till about sometime in early November. And thanks again to the Jeff Morin Foundation and the Morins for buying those for the park. They're a great addition. We are doing lots of tree work. This is a picture of accurate tree, taking down a tree at the corner of Dane and East Dunstable. This was on our list for some time, so the residents there are very happy to see that come down. We've been doing a lot of mulching, as you can imagine, here in the spring. Pictured to the left is Stellos, in the middle Main Street, and on the right Concord Street. Here are street crews working to repair a failing structure on Huron Drive. Well, the street department crews work together with Pan Am Railroad to reset rails and repave a crossing on Bridge Street. This is the street crews finishing up the handicap access ramp as part of the boat ramp project at Greeley Park. Our staff pressure washed and painted the concrete walls of the salt barn at the street department. We shimmed and overlaid part of the Stellos parking lot. The part closest to Stadium Drive. We plan to do all eventually, but we did about half of it. The street department, this is installing new berm and replacing damaged sections of the berm along Stadium Drive. We've been diligently repainting crosswalks downtown. This location is at Dearborn and Prospect Street. These are pictures of the on-site biofilter that we have at wastewater. The media inside needs to be changed annually. And this helps, of course, with odor control. The Gillis Street Pump Station, this is just a picture of the final paving. And then I think there's a punch list of items to complete. That's almost done. This is just to give you a sense of how large these pumps are. These are the wet weather facility pumps, and we need 3 to operate at full flow. Each pump can process 20 million gallons a day of flow, and for a total of 60 million gallons a day. So we have 4 pumps, of course, because if one of them goes down, we need a backup. This is a picture of, we forget that we have a certified lab at the wastewater treatment plant, which is pretty cool. If you ever have a chance to visit, it's worth the trip. And this is some of our lab personnel training our operations staff on what they're seeing microscopically. So they watch this very closely. The superintendent watches this, the operations supervisor watches this to see if there are any issues. This is one of the ways that they determine if we have issues in the process that, so we need to tweak things a bit. And Dave Boucher loves to show off the lab and show all the microorganisms. So he would love to show anybody. This is, we had our first household hazardous waste collection, and it was very successful. We had 327 households that participated. So, and interestingly enough, almost half of the people dropping off items were first timers. So that's good. And it was the next collection that will be held on Thursday, June 3rd from 3 to 7 in Nashua at 25 Crown Street. This is gas collection starting again at the landfill. We're installing more. We are installing one of 9 vertical wells in the gas expansion area. And the Four Hills landfill will be closed on Monday, May 31st in observance of Memorial Day. And of course, all collection routes will be delayed by 1 day this week. And that's it.
Right. Any questions or comments on the director's report? Thank you, Ms. Photo. Commissioner Pappas.
I have two items. One would be directed, Mr. Meredith, either you or Alderman O'Brien. I know I had mentioned it at the last meeting, and I have noticed this has been a problem even before we put the barriers up on Main Street. So if you're coming down Canal Street and those vehicles are allowed to take a right turn on red, and if you're in the right lane, you tend to go either take a right on Lowell Street or you go straight on Concord Street. And if you head in the left lane, you're headed to Amherst Street. So the problem is, since these folks are allowed to take a right turn on red, even if they're not blocking the intersection, when all those people are taking right-hand turns, Main Street traffic can't move because you're not supposed to block an intersection. So I know in other areas on Main Street, pretty much most intersections, it says no right-hand turn 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And I think that there's much more of a danger of traffic getting backed up on Main Street, even without the barriers. But with the barriers, it's a real problem. And people get angry and people get frustrated. I noticed the article in the Union Leader, when they said that there's bad behavior on Main Street. And as I've said, if you're traveling south on Main Street, it's not bad because you can go down the Water Street ramp. But if you're heading north on Main Street, people get very frustrated. It takes a very long time. to do that. So I think, no, I can't, I know that the commissioners can't sponsor legislation, but I think that legislation should be sponsored to not take a right-hand turn on Canal Street when you're at that intersection. If you go left, you go onto Main Street, but if you take a right, you're going towards Amherst Street or Concord Street. I think it's been a problem for years, and I think that it's made things more unpleasant on Main Street with the barriers up. And I think that it would be a very good move to take a look at that. And because I do think that people want to support the Main Street businesses. They want to support the restaurants. But I think anything we can do to make the traffic heading north less aggravating would be good. And I actually think that would be a good move. Even as I said, even without the barriers, I think sometimes that's been a problem, and I think it would really help. I think it would help traffic move better on Main Street.
All right,
The second,
my recollection was that traffic, or the city engineer and traffic, were going to look at that question and give us their thoughts. Now, I don't know if you got to that or not. Do you?
Dan, did you? You're correct, Mayor. I'm going to ask the city engineer if he's had a chance to review that.
No, we have not had a chance to fully review that yet. We did hear the comment, and we will look at that. But people, some people have been out on vacation, different things. So we'll effort to look at that and have a response next month.
All right. Could you summarize your thoughts in writing so that we could give it to infrastructure as well?
sure.
No, I didn't mean Commissioner Pappas.
I thought you meant my request. I apologize for the mix-up.
I meant Mr. Hudson.
Okay.
If you could do a memo to the board, and we could give it on to infrastructure so they would see the conclusions, or at least the thinking at the same time.
Sure.
Okay.
But the question is, the basic question, if we were to prohibit right turns on, from Canal to Main during red, would that improve conditions on Main Street?
Correct.
Correct. All right. So we'll have a memo for the next meeting.
Okay. And I had one more issue. It's more administrative for these meetings. And I had spoken to the director about it. For years, we always did our personnel hiring in public session. Obviously, if someone's getting dismissed, or if someone's getting, some sort of ruling against them, that would not be something we'd ever do in public. But I know it's quite common practice to do hiring in public session. For example, all teachers, when you're a teacher, your name's going to be put in front of the school board, and it's always done in public session. And it's not a huge deal, but I think it would be easier for the clerk if we didn't have to go in and out of public and non-public every single, every single meeting. And, perhaps if the applicant is afraid that their boss would be upset or whatever, maybe they can be asked when they're, if they want their hiring not to be in public session. But I just think it gets more difficult for the clerk, and then people people trying to keep track of what's public and what's non-public gets a little, not sticky, but just cumbersome, I guess is the word. Just a thought.
Based on that reason, we have tended to take these things in public, even though it says non-public, for example, hirings. But like tonight, I think we should take that in public session.
I would agree.
I used to agree with both of you, but can we go into non-public tonight, and I can explain why I now disagree? Please.
All right.
Something happened that I think may change your minds. That's all. Because I was on the very same page you both were up until this last meeting.
Do you mind, Commissioner Pappas, if we go into non-public to hear what?
Absolutely, absolutely not, Mr. Chair. It's your call.
All right. So anyone else have, well, the director presented her report. Any other question or on that
Mr. Mayor,
and or commissioners' comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Tees.
a bit of a problem I got to attend to at home. I've got a boy stuck in something that he can't get out of, and I may literally need to call 911. So I need to hang up the phone.
Please take care of your family situation. We
Thank
hope it
you.
comes out okay. All right. Anyone else have comments or questions? Commissioners' comments or questions for the director?
Mayor, I would just remind the commissioners of the board of our meeting tomorrow night as well at the time, 4 o'clock, is it?
Yes, we're meeting in concert with the infrastructure committee.
Right.
I think it is 4 o'clock.
Yes, it is.
To
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
talk about the building project and how we're going to move forward with that. All right. Conditional, of course, on the sale of Burke Street, which we think is going to go through. All right. Any other comments? Commissioners' comments? All right. Let's go to personnel non-public session. Is there a motion to go into non-public session? I don't know who has that.
I think Commissioner Tees did. I have one here.
Why don't, given the, given
Go
the,
ahead and make the motion, and I'll say so motioned.
Okay, so the motion would be, I move, I'll pretend I'm Commissioner Pappas for a minute. Make a motion, I move by roll call that the board go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91A:3-2B, the hiring of any person as a public employee.
So moved.
all right, motion made by Commissioner Pappas. Can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Mayor Donches.
Yes, motion passes and we're going to go into non-public session. All right. We're back into public session. Is there a motion regarding sealing the minutes?
Yes, I move by roll call to seal the minutes of the Board of Public Works Personnel Non-Public Meeting of May 24, 2021, until such time as the majority of the board votes that the purpose of the confidentiality would no longer be served.
Could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tees,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Mayor Donches.
Yes, and the motion passes. Now, before we conclude the meeting, and maybe I should have done this under commissioners' comments, this is National Public Works Week 2021. So I have a proclamation which I will read to the commission. Whereas National Public Works Week is an annual educational campaign by the American Public Works Association, public works departments across the country use this week to promote the hard work of public works employees, and the results of that work is seen in street paving, upkeep of parks and recreational spaces, snow plowing, sidewalk repairs, trash pickup and recycling, and a lot more. And whereas this time is a chance to celebrate Nashua's Public Works Division. The city of Nashua has 32 square miles of territory, which includes 53 parks, more than 600 lane miles of streets, and an average daily flow of 16 million gallons at the wastewater treatment facility. Our dedicated, passionate, hardworking public works employees give it their all every day to provide Nashua citizens with services that they can depend upon. And whereas during this past year, through the COVID-19 pandemic, the city of Nashua is more grateful than ever for its amazing public works team. Through this challenging time, not only did they continue to sustain and improve the health, safety, and quality of life for all Nashuans, but also paved 26 miles of streets, offered safe, alternative, family-friendly parks, as well as recreation programs, and kept the community informed. And whereas National Public Works Week is an opportunity to say thank you to Nashua's invaluable public works personnel and share our appreciation for them. Now, therefore, I, Jim Donchess, Mayor of the City of Nashua, New Hampshire, and the Board of Public Works, do hereby proclaim the week of May 16 to 22, 2021 as National Public Works Week, and encourage all residents to honor the contributions that our public works employees make every day for the betterment of our city. So this is the proclamation right here, which I will give to Director Photo when I see her again.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor. That means a lot coming from you.
All right. Well, any other comments before we adjourn? If not, Commissioner Moriarty,
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I would move for adjournment.
could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes?
Commissioner Shoneman,
Yes.
Mayor Donches.
Yes. And the meeting is adjourned. I hope everyone has a good evening.